Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October 8th, 2024 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. Members of the commission are appointed by the Select Board to implement the rules and regulations of the State Wetlands Protection Act and the Milton Town Bylaw governing the wetlands. As a matter of formality, we have two rules of thumb. One is that we invite the public to speak, ask questions, make comments. But we do ask that you identify yourself when you're doing that, because it is an open meeting and we do have a recording going on. The second point of formality is we introduce ourselves, and I'm just going to read across the top. My name is John Kiernan. Steve, can you go?
Steve Ibis, conservation agent.
Philip?
Roy Chambers.
Conservation clerk.
Hans?
Hans Finlingen, commission member.
Tom Palmer?
Tom Palmer, member of the commission.
And Arthur Doyle?
Arthur Doyle, commission member.
I think that's all we've got, but we have our quorum. We're ready to go. First on the agenda is number one, Climate Action Planning Committee. The chair of its Conservation Land subgroup is Ron Israel. And Ron, I see you here tonight, and welcome.
Thank you. Would you like me to make a short presentation about our work? Is that the idea? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, please. And for the public's benefit, our agenda, this is informational agenda item. So we're learning. We're here to learn, Ron, and we welcome your comments and insight.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. So I have been chairing a working group that used to be called the Conservation Lands Working Group, but we actually are considering changing our name to the Forest Trees and Watershed Working Group. We're a subgroup of the Milton Climate Action Planning Committee, which is developing action plans in 4 or 5 different domains that affect climate change, including the one that I'm working on. So this group is composed of organizations that are working to address forestry and trees and watershed issues in the town of Milton. And so members of the group so far include the Friends of the Blue Hills, the Neponset River Watershed Association, the Shade Tree Advisory Committee, and Arthur representing your group, the Conservation Commission. So we have met and discussed ways in which the interests of each of these groups coincide or support one another. And we've developed a series of short-term goals that are intended to help the state achieve the goals that are embedded in its Forest Action Plan of 2020. And so the 3 goals that we've come up with are, first, to reduce the impact of climate change on private property that abuts the Blue Hills and the Neponset River Valley in Milton. Secondly, to increase the amount of shade trees in the town. And thirdly, to improve the tree stock in the Blue Hills. So I'll touch upon each of those briefly. So the first one, reducing the impact of climate change on private property abutting Blue Hills and the Neponset River Valley. So the Blue Hills and the Neponset River, as you know, are 2 environmental markers in the town of Milton, and both have demonstrated the impact of climate change in the form of fires, droughts, floods, and stormwater surges, and both are ringed by private homes and property that are at risk as a result of the changing climate. So this, we propose to address this goal by doing some estimates that we hope at the end of 2 years will lead us to an estimate of the expected structural and cost damage to 100 abutting residents, or the loss of vegetation on buffeting parcels, estimates of the need for future insurance for abutting residents and organizations, and one or more plans for a managed retreat to develop climate resilience. The second goal, increasing the amount of shade tree cover in the town of Milton, is an attempt to make up for the deficit in shade trees that currently exist in the town. As you all know, shade trees play an important role in reducing heat and other climate adaptation outcomes that that can be diminished as a result of having shade trees all over the town of Milton. And the Shade Tree Advisory Committee, as you know, has been working on this issue for quite some time and has done a canopy tree study of the entire town that interestingly enough as leads you to see how much the importance of shade trees are, not just in reducing heat, but also in sequestration of carbon. And so we hope within a 2-year time frame to work with the town to have the town have a dedicated budget line item that makes sure that at least 140 new trees are planted every year, and that there are ways to restore the greater than 1,500 trees previously lost through neglect. Doubling the town budget to 280 trees would result in restoration over a 10-year period of those 1,500 trees that have been lost. The third outcome, or the third goal of our subgroup, is to improve a climate-friendly tree stock in the Blue Hills. And as you know, forests to be resilient to a changing climate must contain a diversity of species and size classes. And so what we are proposing to do under this goal is to implement a case study that will give us baseline data that will enable us to quantify the current status of the Blue Hills as a climate mitigation and adaptation resource for Milton, and to plan and implement forest improvement strategies. So those are briefly, don't have time to go into all the details. Those are the 3 goals of our working group under the Climate Action Planning Committee. And we're working in consort with other working groups that are addressing the issues of energy, waste, and building infrastructure. So our goal as a whole for the Climate Action Planning Committee by next spring is to develop a full-scale climate action plan that we will present to the select committee.
If I could state the obvious, or maybe ask a question that would be an obvious one, but it appears that you're working in concert with Friends of the Blue Hills, the stakeholders that you mentioned, the DCR and Neponset River Valley Watershed Association. Is there going to be a plan that you envision in which all of the stakeholders are participants? That is like, as an example, if you're looking for Community Preservation Act funding, is your proposal going to end up as the Climate Action Planning Committee looking for funding, or is everybody getting together and say, we can do this together, and some funding from DCR, some funding from the Neponset Rivers, et cetera, and the Friends of the Blue Hills? How does that work? Are you working in concert? Really,
Yeah.
is what I'm asking.
So this would work. We haven't, as a large group, the Climate Action Planning Committee, discussed funding issues. So everybody recognizes there's a need to do that. And each of these working groups that I mentioned are going to have funding needs. So it's an unresolved issue. For us, in the forest trees working group, if we approach the conservation funding source, my understanding is that their funding, their monies, come directly from real estate taxes. And so I've had some preliminary discussions with them. They have a particular interest in the way in which climate change affects private property in the town. So our funding proposal I'm not sure whether it will come from our committee, our working group, or from the whole committee itself, but the working group will be the main body, I believe, that will be responsible for implementing that. And the implementation process will involve all of those groups that I mentioned earlier, except for, you mentioned the DCR. We have really gone to great lengths to try and involve the DCR in our work, but they've been, for reasons that nobody quite understands, they've been a little bit elusive.
No, that's too bad. But I actually saw some comments, early spring, that DCI was very, let's call it jurisdictional about some of the forested lands in the Blue Hills.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but that's why I'm really looking to see if you've made any progress on that kind of collaboration. Because it looks like you're working pretty well with Neponset River folks, Ian Cook and company.
Yeah, and Friends of the Blue Hills has been very active as well. And we have had conversations with the DCR and have gotten some advice, but we haven't been able to identify one consistent person who can work with us over time. We keep getting shifted around.
That's a challenge. That's your challenge. I think. That's good. How about commissions? Any questions or comments from commissioners? Tom, I should think that you'd have some. I know you're pretty close to the Friends of the Blue Hills.
Yeah, I did read the material, and it did seem that certain goals will take more participation by other parties than others. And it seemed to me that the low-hanging fruit, or the most doable goal, was likely to be improving the shade tree situation in the town. That seemed to me like where the effort might most likely bear fruit. in terms of the tree cover of the Blue Hills, there really hasn't been any tree cutting there in a long time to speak of. And hence, the woods have been allowed to grow up by themselves. And off the cuff, I really can't think of any kind of scheme that would improve their quality by interfering with the regrowth that's going on right now. And that may be why DCR is not jumping in, because I'm sure they have a plan for the reservation and a forestry plan. And they presumably don't want to promote any conflicts with that.
However, on the
yeah.
other side, if I may say, I'm Steve Ibis, the conservation agent, Ron. I don't think that predation was in that document anywhere. And that's what I've seen over the last 30 some odd years. The predation in the Blue Hills is the one biggest factor that has decreased the number of potential trees in the entire watershed, in my opinion. It's the reason we can see through the woods when we drive down Chickatobit Road. And I think that you might want to take some time to think about predation, specifically the deer predation. What's going on now there, because it's quite different than it was in the mid 80s. I will say that.
Thank
Maybe
you.
the word is herbivory.
Yes. Thank you.
I will bring that up. We have a forestry person who's a graduate of the Yale forestry program who's been advising us on this, and I will bring that issue up with her. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is Arthur. On your point, Steve, I might also mention that the working group has discussed the changing species within the DCR area of the Blue Hills. And also the potential for invasives to be
Yes.
embedded in that area as a result of climate change.
Yeah, the DCR is doing a statewide climate study of their forests that's very slow going. They're doing very small sample sizes, including the Blue Hills, and they're estimating that it won't be before 2050 before they'll have some data to show for this. So our approach, we're kind of more time-sensitive group, and we're trying to proposing to implement a smaller case study that's not maybe a random statistical trial study, but a case study by some skilled arborists that can give us a better sense of the diversity and ages of the tree stock and the carbon storage and sequestration capacity of the Blue Hills in general. But I'll add this predation issue. I think that's a good one we should try to fit in.
All right, any other comments or questions? We really don't have a vote before us tonight. It's just informational, but it's a good opportunity to ask Ron for his insight. Any other thoughts from commissioners?
No, I'd just like to add a compliment to Ron, who's really chaired this working group and worked in earnest in getting it to where it is at the present.
Good point, Arthur, and our thanks to you, Ron, for doing the work that you do.
Thanks for inviting me, and I likewise back at you.
All right, all right. Thanks, Ron, very much. As we move on in the agenda, number 2 is request for landscape modification at 37 Robbins Street. Bob Hannigan, is that you?
Yes,
Perfect.
my name is Bob
Good
Hannigan.
evening.
I'm representing the Barris family on Robbins Street. I think a lot of you are familiar with the property. I think you've been there many times, and they're before you tonight primarily for the substitution of a modification of landscape plan that the commission had approved prior, and the other one is possibility of a partial certificate of compliance for the work that was done for the building and the driveway and the majority of the work. So I think we have Eugene is here to comment. Eugene Barris.
It would be helpful if you could screen share and maybe Steve could help out on this, but if you could screen share the landscaping modifications, I think you've got both the as-built and then the modified plan. If you could show us the modified plan and just describe what the changes are.
I can share the plan, but it says I'm not able to share the screen. So
Steve
hang
can
on a
help you
second.
share that.
Yes, I'll do that. Hang on a sec.
okay,
I'm making you a co-host. Okay, try again now.
okay. Bob, is this it? I think.
That's the original plan that was proposed by Horticultural Concepts. At this point in time, I can't share the modification plan, but essentially what it is along the left-hand property line closest to the brook, they proposed to plant the 12 trees that replacement trees along that line, as well as providing a 15-foot strip of native ground cover with, as the horticultural concepts people had said, with no turf grasses, and then with the remainder of the property to vegetate it with a lawn and also any other plantings that they would care to plant.
Well, I'm looking at the revised plan here, and I'm just confused because I'm looking at the line where the 15-foot native ground cover area is, but it seems to be between those trees.
Yeah, it's around
and
around the trees, between the lot line and,
Okay.
and 15 feet from the lot line.
But if this is the original horticultural plan, how is the revised plan different?
There's
I'm trying to
significantly
figure out what the modification is.
there's significantly less plantings on the modification plan. I think that perhaps Eugene can go into detail as to what transpired with respect to the horticultural concepts plan and the history of the project.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I just want to provide some more context. We were it was a very stressful time. We were about to finish the home. So we had some key deadlines to meet. And when we met with the landscape architect and he put up designed the plans, we didn't really have an opportunity to provide any feedback and review the plan. So it was submitted because we had to, I think we didn't know, there was obviously, you guys aware that you may recall that we had changed builders. So when we first submitted the notice of intent, the landscape plan was not part of it. So we found out that before we got that, our new builder, before he completed the home, he was also going to finish the landscape, but we realized we did not have a landscape plan. So at the time, I think he had a date to submit to file for the landscape plan. So there was a lot going on, and like I said, we didn't have an opportunity to actually provide any feedback and review the plan with the architect. So he just submitted what he thought, wanted. But,
I'd just like to remind them. I'm sorry,
difference?
John, go ahead.
I'm still trying to figure out what's the difference. It sounds like you just eliminated a lot of the trees and shrubs. Is that correct?
I'd just like to point out to the commission members that this particular project is within the upper riparian zone of the brook. It's not like it's, within 25-foot zone of the 100-foot buffer zone. And personally, I think the plan that horticultural did was maybe a little bit of an overkill. So I think that the Barris family would like to simplify that.
Right, but we're trying to figure out what's the difference. I mean, did they go from 12 trees to 6 trees, or from 24 trees to 12 trees? I don't know.
No, the trees remain the same. It's the ground covers that we want to have a little bit more flexibility on, and just possibly.
But what is flexibility? I don't know what you mean. You wanted manicured.
Want to put some grass. The way it is. It was designed is mostly no grass was allowed, and when he included the plan, he says no grass allowed, and I don't think our property would look, I think it's gonna not look good in our opinion, and we would like to have some grass around the property, and all the other properties around, our neighbors close to the brook have grass, and we don't intend, I'm an environmental health myself, so I don't use, I never use pesticide in any of our homes, but the grass is something that, we think it aesthetically looks nice, but also, I mean, that's basically one of the changes that we're proposing. And I think Bob also outlined that the planting around the perimeter of the yard close to the brook.
Okay, so you want to have regular manicured, whatever you call it, turf lawn or manicured lawn, instead of the natural look. Okay, but it's hard to figure that out. Looking at the plan, it doesn't. Looking at not the horticultural plan, but rather the proposed modification engineering plan, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what the changes are.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. Yeah, the original plan, it said no grass whatsoever, and that, I think that's one of the issues.
So that's the big change.
Yeah,
grass. All right. And you said that you'd agree to no pesticides, but we'd obviously want you to have no fertilizer as well.
Oh yeah, no. Like I said, I'm in environmental health. I don't believe in chemicals. We have children, we have pets, and that's something I don't believe in. And I don't intend to bring chemicals into my home. So that's something that I'm very much conscious of, and I do adhere to the conservation. Environmental friendly vegetations and.
Okay, now I understand it.
Yep.
So the number of trees is the same. It's still 12.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and is there a difference in with the shrubs? I don't have that plan that's on the screen. We don't have copies of that one. I know it's in the file somewhere, but.
Yeah, I don't think there's any difference on the shrubs. No.
So no difference in shrubs.
Well, no, there's
a
significant difference. In my opinion, I'm not a horticulturist, but my opinion, I think that horticultural addressed it more of a 100-foot buffer project, not as a 200-foot, 100 to 200-foot upper.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm just asking, what's the reduction? I get the grass part of it. I understand the tree part of it. And I understand you think that they, went over the top in terms of their landscaping plan, but my question is pretty simple. I just want to know what the modification is. What is the reduction in the number of shrubs?
Uh, I mean, like I said, ideally, we would like to have less ground covering and more grass, but I don't, are
So
we allowed to do that?
is your answer you don't know? Because we approved the plan. We just need to know what's the change in the plan.
It's a significant reduction. It's pretty much mostly a lawn outside of the 15-foot native ground cover area along the property line that is closest to the brook, and the remainder of the property will be essentially lawn. I mean, it's as I mentioned, in my opinion, the original plan was overkill. There was a lot going on with the Barris family in regards to the construction of their property. That
I understand the motivation for it, Bob. It's just that it was the applicant's plan and we approved it. So we just need to know what's the difference. And I think you now described it. You're taking the shrubs out of there. So now my question is there I don't remember any kind of elevation change going to the brook. I mean, do we need the shrubs to hold the land in place, or will the grass be sufficient to do that? Is
Yep.
there going to be a runoff problem, erosion into the brook? That's a big deal to us.
no, there's no elevation change. The elevations are pretty much the same as they were prior to the construction. Slight grading around the building due to the height calculation for the ridge, but essentially it's the same elevations as originally on the property.
Okay, got it. Well, we certainly know the area because we lost a lot of trees on the other side of the brook, at the corner of what is it, Trout Brook Road? I think they took out a number of trees right there. So I'm glad that you're keeping the trees there for basically it's a screen, a landscape screen. Am I correct that the trees that you're going to keep are going in that area?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and I know the other commissioner. I know Hans. I don't remember if you were there. I know that Arthur was there, and I know Tom Palmer was there when we looked. Not this house, but the one on the corner of Trout Brook, and they took out a lot of those hemlocks. So I'm just any questions or comments on this from
John.
commission members?
If I may, I believe the landscaping plan that was put forward was to mitigate the trees that were taken down for clearing the lot. And due to the number of trees, there was a combination of trees, shrubs, and other plant materials. So I think those numbers were supposed to contribute to the overall tree removal numbers. And so eliminating those, I think it would be helpful to have the original count of plant materials so we can do a side-by-side comparison of what the proposed change is.
Right, and that
But we're not
that's
removing, sorry, we're not removing the trees. The trees is, it's 12 trees that we have.
So to be clear, you had to take out a lot more trees than you're putting back in.
No, I think when we submit the notice of intent, we hired Brad Holmes.
I remember, I was there.
It was approved, the 12 trees that were deemed viable. And that's what it's on the plan, and we're sticking to it. And as far as like, we're not reducing the number. We want to keep the same amount of trees that was approved of trees in the property.
Hans, I know what you said, and I don't, Mr. Barrows, you may not have appreciated what Hans was talking about, but when we do a tree replacement, we have a performance standard, And sometimes we use trees to replace trees, and sometimes we have a certain number of shrubs to replace trees. And it's very common for us to approve a plan that is a combination of trees and shrubs. It was a different performance. In the old days, it was easy to count because it was 3-to-1 for a tree, and it was like 6 shrubs to 1 tree. So it was actually easy mathematically to speak. So I think Hans's point was a little bit different than the point you just made. But I understand. And Bob, I know you understand what Hans is saying. Do we have, I don't know if Philip, do you have the old file in front of you or just what?
I just
what's
have what was submitted for tonight. I don't have the file with me.
Okay. Maybe you could, I think we can work something out, and this might be an occasion where I know everybody's always talking about that tree bank and credits going into the tree bank, which is not a bank at all, and it's not money, but it is an inventory of trees that can be used elsewhere. And this might be an appropriate time to consider that as a mechanism to make sure that we have we stick with the performance standard that we applied when we approved this plan. And does that make sense to you, Hans?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure it's clear that the change is, I mean, if the change affects what that mitigation plan was, if the number of plants proposed were for replacement purposes, and if those plants are being now proposed to be taken out of that's how that's addressed. So if this is a change that doesn't affect that at all, then I don't see an issue with it.
Right, Tom, Arthur, any comments?
I have a comment. I counted the shrubs on the plan we're looking at, and there's 24. And I think Bob said that's going to 0. So yeah, it is a different sort of plan. And I think if the owner could still have the lawn that he is talking about, that he desires, by putting those shrubs around the perimeter, the lot line, they're not going to be very big. So that might be a solution to stay with the original mitigation, but still allow the lawn areas to be constructed. And I have one more comment. I'm looking at the plan called the as-built plan. And as I remember the permitting here, we did have some discussion of the stormwater and impervious areas. And there was a drainage plan. And I believe there was a buried facility that we required, but I don't see anything about the stormwater on the as-built plan. So I would say I would be reluctant to approve a plan that doesn't show the structures that were required.
I think that might have been included in an earlier plan. That was installed. The downspouts are connected to that recharge. It's to the right of the proposed the existing driveway, closer to Myers Lane. So, I mean, I can modify this plan to show that, but they are in fact.
Well, yeah, thank you, because that's what I would like. I just think if it's an as-built plan, it should show that as part of the construction.
Okay, yep, that can be done.
Okay, Bob, you got a pretty good sense of the site. You've been there a lot. Is there a way that you can envision right now taking those 24 shrubs and putting them along the boundary, sort of the perimeter, and get the lawn, but keep the number of shrubs?
I think we can take a look at that. It depends on what Eugene and Eurydice decide, but I think we can take a look at that.
Yeah. we're flexible.
Sounds like it makes sense. It would be less of a modification, and it seems to accommodate Eugene his wishes to have the greater lawn area.
Maybe if we could have a site visit on some day down the road and have that modification done, perhaps that might satisfy the commission.
Sounds like a good idea.
I just wanted to chime in and agree with Hans's point and Tom's point. I think the staggering of the shrubbery along the tree line, on either side of the tree line, freeing up the other area for the native ground cover would meet the objectives of the commission and the objectives of the owners alike.
Sounds like a plan. How about a site visit? I'm actually looking ahead. Do we have any other ones that are obvious coming up, Steve?
35 Lincoln Street.
Yeah, you're right. We'll be
Maywood.
out anyway for that. That's true. So why
Yes.
don't we look at what's like next Saturday look like?
Not the
John,
holiday weekend, John.
It's a 3-day weekend.
Okay,
Many
so
people
what's
are
the
away.
following weekend? We go from what, the 10th, the 11th to the 18th?
The 19th.
19th?
is the Saturday.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm unavailable until the 23rd, so that weekend is not good for me.
So the next weekend would be what, the 26th?
Yes.
Yes, 26th.
All right, I can do the 26th. Arthur, Tom, Hans?
Yeah, that's good.
I should be good.
Hans?
Yeah, I can do the 26th.
All right, good.
We'll have
Since
our
Wendy's not
landscape
here.
available. Sorry.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
Is that
We'll
good?
have our
Eugene, is it-
landscape available. That way he'll be on the same page.
Yes.
Sure. Okay,
The
So,
23rd, you said, what time?
26th.
26th.
26th. What's the consensus, 8 or 8:30?
I prefer 8.
8's good with me. And Wendy's not here to protest, so.
But I am. 8:30.
You want? I'll do whatever you want, guys. All right, Steve has a travel issue, so let's accommodate Steve and make it 8:30.
Thank you. That's
All
very
right.
kind.
All right, Eugene will be at your house at 8:30 in the morning on Saturday, the 26th.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Appreciate it.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks, Bob, very much. See you
Very
then.
good. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next on the agenda is amended order of conditions for 125 Fuller's Lane.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Savant. I'm a professional land surveyor with Stenbeck and Taylor. This project here on Fuller's Lane was a notice of intent filed in 2021. The orders are still active, and we're seeking to do a modification to some of the landscaping on the site. As you can see on the revised plan, essentially what the applicant is hoping to add to the
Rick, can I hold you there?
Yes.
Hey, Rick, can I hold you? Because we can't see it. I mean, we've all got it, but if you could screen share, it would be helpful. And if you need help from Steve Ivas to screen share, then you've got it. Can you do it?
Unfortunately, I am not prepared to share the screen. I was hoping we'd have it. I don't know if there's any way you can put it up, Steve, but forgive me. I haven't
me
had
see
to
if I
have
can-
a PDF with me.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me see
Sure.
if I can find
I
it.
apologize for that.
Let's see. That's the next one. That's the meeting posting template. All right. Let me see if I can find it in the files. All right.
Okay.
Give me a few minutes, just a couple of minutes here. 125 Fuller,
Yeah.
and I don't have the Plan. Where the heck is the plan? Oh. Yeah, why don't I have the plan? Hang on. Let me go to the master file and work down to 125. Fuller, and let's take a look and see if we've got the plan there. No, let's try that. Does that look like the plan? Can you see that yet?
Not yet,
No.
but you're on the
Okay.
right line.
Yep.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Can you see it?
We can.
Yes.
Can you make it bigger?
Yes, I will try. Yep.
Forgive me, everyone.
Uh,
I'll be prepared to do this next time.
hopefully.
There you
How's
go.
that?
That's
Is that
good. Thanks.
helpful? Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve.
Sure,
So
Rick.
again, what we're proposing here, what the applicant is hoping to amend is on the left side of the home, we're proposing some retaining walls, 2 retaining walls, and then a larger, longer wall at the bottom of the slope. And
right down in here?
patio, yep, runs the length of the house, and then a pervious patio area in there.
Yep.
The main reason for this modification, and I'm sure you're familiar with the site, we got a very steep slope there. It drops about 16 feet from the street down to the wetland area. It's not easy slope to traverse. Now with the new home construction nearly complete, they're looking at the side yard and wanting to terrace it off and level it off a little bit to make it more usable and maybe add some safety to it too, coming down the side of the house. What they're proposing, the plan actually says that they're going to be precast like a uniblock wall. If we're talking with the contractor and the homeowner, what they'd actually prefer is just like a natural fieldstone, local fieldstone wall, kind of just built in place, some light mortar, and a more natural looking stone walls for the 3 of them. They're each about 18 inches high. You come down from the street to meet that first wall. It creates the first terrace. It drops about 18 inches to the next wall at the bottom of that stairway adjacent to the left side of the home. And then it drops about 2.5 more feet till you get to that bottom wall. This area will be once the walls yes.
Steve, I know you've got the cursor. I'm lost here. Where are the walls on the plan?
Walls are right in here. Any idea what that noise is?
No.
It might be my machine spinning up, so I'm going to mute myself, see if that's it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. So do you see the cursor now, John?
Yes. Okay. So I've got it's red
That
on
should be
mine,
the
but it
That's
says
correct. It's
PW
in red.
94.5, then
Yep.
gray
And
block.
Yeah, so it says gravity blocks, which were precast kind of Lincoln lock blocks. But
Got it.
as I stated, they'd like to actually do a natural local fieldstone wall is what they're deciding that they'd like to make these walls out of. But same shape, same size, same height, and everything else. That first wall you see there, Mr. Chair, is they're 2 feet wide and they're 20 feet long coming out from that stairway. And then from
there's the
there,
stairway.
yep, so the stairway that was previously approved that runs down to help navigate the slope there. It needed a stairway to get from the front yard to the back. And so that stairway will be there. The second wall is exactly 10 feet below it, there's another 20-foot, 2-foot wide wall, 1.5 feet high, fieldstone wall.
Yep.
Then it'll drop down and drop about 2.5 feet in grade to that last wall, which is a longer wall that runs about the full length of the house. Again, a fieldstone wall about 1.5 feet high. And that will run basically the extent of the length of the building. So again, the main reason is to terrace it off, level the grade off, make the yard a little bit more useful. There's also another thought behind it, help stabilize the slope and runoff coming from the street and currently running down that slope and directly into the wetlands. Create sort of a breakwater there, if you will, to help dissipate some of the flow coming down, and it'll be lawn is what they're proposing to do in that area to help with any stormwater coming down the slope. The dry wells, as previously approved, will all still be in place, collecting the roof runoff. The walls will be built mostly by hand. They do have a small machine on site that they've been using throughout the construction of Bobcat to help bring some of the stone into place. Again, that machine has been on site throughout the home construction. They're going to use the same machine just to transport some of the rocks down there, but it will be built by hand, kind of a compacted, just a natural gravel base to set the base stones in, and then build a balanced mortar wall in those 3 locations. And of course, the patio. At the back of the house, there's a 330 square foot pervious patio proposed that will sit between the house and the wall, just to provide a sitting area there off the rear of the house to kind of enjoy the woodland view and the wetland area. And the wall also creates kind of a break in the yard. It kind of separates the yard area from the buffer zone and the wetland area, kind of contain everybody around the house, and is really the goal of the project.
All right, I followed everything you said, but you did say something that's a little concerning, because you said you've got an excavator on site. And I think the whole site is jurisdictional, and we have a condition of the order of conditions. One of our special conditions is that there's no refueling or overnight storage of equipment within our jurisdiction. Is there someplace you might have to ask the indulgence of the Cunningham Foundation there, but they've got some roadways close by that you could store it on and get it out of our jurisdiction?
I certainly understand that. What I was implying is that the machine, I don't believe it's on site. I'm not sure. It's not an
It's not on
excavator.
site.
Yeah, it's just
It hasn't been there for a while.
No, it was a Bobcat that I asked the contractor how they were gonna get the stones in place, that I thought you might be asking tonight. So they were going to use a Bobcat machine, the same machine that was used throughout the construction. It's not sitting on site or any fuel or anything like that, but that's the machine they will be using to move the stone, the larger stones. So forgive me for misleading that, but there isn't an excavator sitting out there full of fuel in the jurisdiction.
All right, good, thanks.
All other aspects of the previous approval will be complete. Another important point that I should have made, there's currently erosion control in place now. That will need to be upgraded and relocated for this new work if it is approved. Moved to it, as shown on the plan, the heavy line, which is the existing silt sock that's been there throughout construction. And there's a short length that is proposed behind the wall on the west end where Steve's cursor is now, just to encapsulate the work area if approved. So the silt sock will be moved or replaced as needed to keep that erosion control barrier in there throughout any of the work.
And
And
Mr.
again,
Chairman,
go ahead.
I've taken a look at this site while they were beginning to work on it, and they've done a good job with it. So far, I can
Good.
vouch for their work.
All right, to the extent that you're moving the silt sock line, the erosion control line, it looks like you're going to be moving it into our jurisdiction. That isn't the 25-foot non-disturbance. I understand it's a temporary alteration, but two things. One, are you going to do that? Because it looks like, as I look at the chart, it looks like you're going to have to move it further away from that block wall. And I don't think it would be a significant issue for us because A, it's temporary, and I don't think it's going to have a significant adverse impact by putting erosion controls there on a temporary basis. But do you know whether or not you would be going on the other side? I'm looking at a green line here, which is a 25-foot non-disturbance. I know it's not green on what we're looking at, but on the map that I am, it is.
So the intent so to answer your question, one, we're not proposing to put it inside the 25. It is very close in that area, right up against that 25-foot no disturb. The intent was to place it at or upland of the 25, but not inside. Just to accommodate that stonework, but we weren't proposing to put it inside the 25-foot buffer.
Okay. I don't, what I was trying to signal to you is I don't think it'll be an issue. We just need to know it because it actually requires a second vote. But if you can keep it outside the 25-foot and still have it be effective, then good. Do you think you can? I'm trying to be practical here. Okay.
Yes, I'm sure we can.
Okay. Well, for the public's benefit, the Conservation Commission has been to the site a number of times. And I'm comfortable with this plan. Does any of the commissioners think that we need to go out and take another look at it? Or can we vote on this on the basis of this chart?
I do have one question. So typically with a block wall, the specifications for those do require drainage on the backside of it. Backfill with crushed stone. If you are putting in a field stone wall that's, looks like the wall is 4 feet high. Are you installing drainage behind it, or will it just be fit?
Speaking with the contractor, asked the same question. They're proposing just a chinked wall, light mortar, but still allow water to pass through. It's not going to be a solid concrete wall. Just a natural gravel base. There's very good soil out there. But we talked about weep holes and drainage, and they were proposing just a stacked, loose fit fieldstone wall. Should allow drainage through it.
And you had mentioned that you get runoff from the street. Where are you getting that runoff? Would it be, is it being directed towards, is it running towards those walls currently?
There isn't an erosion problem or a water problem there. It's just a steep slope. So certainly rainwater is gonna, it is great absorption there. It's basically gravel. They do not have an erosion problem or a water problem at all. I was just stating the steepness of the slope. In a huge rain event, obviously you're gonna have some water coming down, but just rainwater there's no drainage problems on the site at all, Hans.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
This is Arthur. I just wanted to say that I do like the addition of the 3 walls. I know the area very well from my distant youth. We used to hike through there many times. And my only question is, are there any steps from the walls to the descending level?
Arthur, there are no proposed steps other than the steps that are adjacent to the end of the building to get down. They're not proposing any steps built into the walls at all.
Okay, good. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So let me reiterate my question. Does anybody feel there's a need for sidewalk? I do not.
Nor do I, John.
No, I don't believe so either.
I don't, but I'd like to see a revised plan that indicates the construction of the wall as opposed to a block wall. I know it's a minor change, but
That's okay.
No, I agree. I agree with that, Hans. That's easy to do, and I'll certainly do that.
Hans, would you accept a vote pending the delivery of that plan?
I don't have an issue with it myself.
Okay, great.
So the vote, Rick, just for your benefit, the vote will be conditional upon submission of that revised plan to show the details of the wall.
Yes.
All right, but we still need two votes because the first is whether or not this is a significant revision, and then if it's deemed to be insignificant, that is not significant, then we take a vote on to whether or not to accept the changes and issue a revised order of conditions. So the first vote is would be a motion to deem these revisions a minor revision to the existing order of conditions. Is there such a motion?
I'll move accordingly, John.
All right, thanks, Arthur. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
All right, thanks, Hans. Any discussion among commission members? Hearing none. Arthur Doyle, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom Palmer, how do you vote? You may be on mute. I can't see you, Tom. I think he was going to mute it because there was noise coming in from his machine.
I unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, Tom.
I still have a couple of questions.
Oh, good. Okay, go ahead.
I'm looking at the plan. Along the Fillers Lane side of the lot, there's a broken line that has OHE written in it. What does that mean?
That is an overhead electric line between the utility poles.
Yes.
Okay. What about the circles in green or blue that have DW written in them?
Okay, those are the dry wells that were approved as part of the addition on the home.
Okay, and what about the well that's up at the top of the plan near the lot line that is just a black dot? Is that a drinking water well or a irrigation well?
That was an old well. I think the homeowner is on them. I don't believe that's an active well. It's just an old, as I recall, it was an old mortared rock well that we just located and shown. Are you on, Julie?
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
And was there another house on this lot before you built this one?
There was
No.
an existing home on the right side, which I believe is a relatively older home. What we added was the garage addition to the left of it. So the existing home is basically that box on the right was the existing home.
All right, I got it. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tom, the motion that was seconded is whether or not this would be deemed a minor revision to the existing order of condition.
Yeah, I vote yes on that.
All right, good. And Hans, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Right, and I, John Kiernan, vote yes as well. All right, the second motion is, given the fact that these are not significant revisions to the order of conditions, is there a motion to approve these revisions and to amend the order of conditions to reflect them? Is there such a motion?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Arthur, is there a second?
I'll second.
That was Tom moving
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it was. I'm sorry, Arthur. Tom, thank you for the motion. Have you got that, Steve?
Yeah.
And then Hans seconded it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom Palmer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Hans, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, John Kiernan, vote yes as well. So you've got your amended order, but it is conditional upon submission of the specifications for the back wall. All right, Rick?
Good. I'm clear on
All right.
that.
Any other, I should have asked this before, but are there any butters or members of the public that had a question? on this. I didn't think there were, but I can't see everybody. Hearing none, I think we're good to go. Julie, you're all set.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks all. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Nice to see you again, Steve.
Yep, you too, Rick.
All right, take care.
Next on the agenda is notice of intent 35 Lincoln Street.
Okay.
Steve, are you able to take that one down, that Fuller's Lane down?
That's what I'm working on now.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to rush you. Sorry.
I understand. No.
I'd be the last one to
fine.
do that.
Anybody know how to do that?
Did you just exit out at the top right?
No, I
Or no,
don't
not that. That one.
think
Yeah,
so.
right above that where you are. Just that document,
No.
not the whole screen.
No.
Bring your
no.
cursor up. No?
At the bottom of your
Enabling
screen,
editing.
it should give you an option to stop sharing.
Well, I don't see such a thing. Nope, it's not there where I'm looking at the bottom. Annotate, show meeting, pause, more. There's a more. There we go. Stop recording. Oh,
No,
no,
stop
I don't want to do
sharing.
that. It's
You're as bad as I am, Steve. There you go.
it works.
All right, done.
Okay. And are we still recording? Yes, we are still recording.
Yes, we are.
Good.
All
Okay.
right, so next on the list is 35 Lincoln Street. Who is presenting on that one? Debbie
Hi.
Anderson, I bet you. Hi, good evening,
Hi.
welcome.
Debbie Anderson, I'm the wetlands consultant on the project. We're also here with the homeowner and applicant Matthew Dunn.
Good evening, Matthew.
I don't know, do you want me to share my screen at this point?
Yeah.
Sure, if you can do it.
But-
Steve, can you
Yep.
make it a co-host?
Yes, I can. Debbie, you should be able to do it right now. Okay.
It says you disabled participant screen sharing. Oh, okay, we're good.
Okay. Good.
All right, hold on. Okay, so this plan's kind of taller rather than wider, so I'll try to adjust it. So this is a 0.213 acre parcel located on the southeasterly side of Lincoln Street. Currently improved with a single family house constructed in 1924 with a detached garage, lawn, and landscaping. To the rear, just off the rear property line, is the perennial stream, which is known as Pine Tree Brook, that flows from west to east at the toe of a relatively steep slope. I delineated the top of bank mean annual high water line back in June. It's an armored bank with a definitive channel. I didn't find any bordering vegetated wetlands associated with it. So those flags would be the top bank. Right in front of the stream, they have a chain link fence and then the property. So the proposed project is to replace an existing garage that is located in this area with a similar garage, slightly larger. The existing garage is 373 square feet in size, and they're replacing it in the same location with a 528 square foot garage. So that's an increase of 155 square feet of impervious area. I do have pictures. If you do want to see those at any point, you can let me know. So
If it's the same Deb, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I read something like the same footprint. So how do you
So
get
it's
the
in the
increase?
same area. So it's within the footprint of the existing garage, but it is slightly larger. So I think you can see where the existing is, and then the proposed comes out slightly larger.
So the proposed is
outside of the footprint. This is a definition thing. It's not the same footprint. It's the larger footprint, is it?
It is, yes, it is a larger footprint. It's just in the same location of the existing structure. So it
The
is
proposed-
155 square feet larger. The
so the
proposed,
proposed garage is the dark black line, and
Yeah.
the existing is more of a bunch of dots, close dots.
yeah, that sounds accurate. I can see if I
Mhm.
see. Can you see the difference in the
Yes.
line point? So that's the existing within it. And then the proposed is the additional. So for this replacement, they don't need to remove any trees or natural vegetation. The area where it will expand is either lawn area or the existing driveway. Since the existing impervious on the site is over 10% of the property, and we're reviewing this as a redevelopment project, we are proposing a mitigation planting area along the rear property line, where we will be putting native shrubs. And that's in excess of the 2-to-1 required mitigation. We don't have a DEP file number yet, unfortunately. And we are proposing an erosion control barrier in this area. So the existing and proposed garage are just right outside of the 25-foot buffer zone. I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, the entire property is located within the 200-foot riverfront area.
Yeah, you say town standard, Debbie. The town standard is a silt sock.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
FYI, okay?
Yeah, no,
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay. So
What's the distance between top of bank and back wall of the proposed garage?
so it's right about 25 feet. You can see the 25.
About?
Well, you can see, so the 25-foot buffer comes right up to the corner of the structure.
Oh, I see it. I get you. Okay.
Yeah. So there's no BBW,
All right, now-
so that 25 foot's from the bank.
Is there in the existing garage, do you have roof runoffs? And if so, where does it go? Do you have downspouts or where does it go to?
Perhaps the homeowner could answer that.
Yeah, there's downspouts that just go right onto the lawn in the front.
I'm just wondering, and I know it's only 155 or 150 odd square feet increase, but would it make sense to put that into a Caltech? And Matt, it's not a big price item, so don't worry about it. But would it make sense from an engineering wetlands perspective to put that into a Caltech detention underground?
That's if the, as you know, the stormwater is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act for a single family home.
No, you don't have to tell us about the regulations, Deb.
No, I assume I don't, which
but-
is why I prefaced it that way. So there wasn't anything proposed at this time as far as infiltration.
It's a pretty flat area, John.
Would you
just
like me to pull up
FYI.
some pictures of the
That
site?
would be helpful. Deb.
Okay, they're part of the filing, so but that is, you can see the screen, the photos.
Yes.
Okay, so that is
Matt,
the front.
correct me if I'm wrong. Is
Yes.
this the place that had the stack of wood along the fence at one time about 2 years ago?
I believe that was my neighbor's house. I've never
That was
talked
your
to anybody
neighbor.
about
Okay.
a stack of wood along the fence.
Thank you.
There's a tree
Yep.
that came down.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
closer to
Thank you.
Brook Road, I think, Stephen.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's my house is the last house on Lincoln Street, and then my neighbor's house is obviously the second to last house from Brook
Right.
Road. We are right
Right.
next to the parking lot.
Yep.
All right, so this is
I-
the existing driveway leading up to the existing garage. This is the rear of the house. This is the existing garage.
Wait a minute, now,
Uh,
Matt, can you go back?
Sure.
Did you say that you're closer to the Brook Road side?
Yeah, I'm the last house on Lincoln Street.
Towards Brook Road?
Correct.
Can you just, Debbie, can you call up that last, the site plan that we were looking at before?
Oh, sure.
It's my house and then the town parking lot.
Yep. To the left is the town parking lot.
And you can see it's labeled
But
Town
the
of
reason I'm
Milton.
lost is, but I'm looking at Thatcher Street.
You see,
Scroll
John,
down a little bit, no,
there's
the
a
other
Z-
way.
There's a
Sorry.
Z
Oh, sorry.
there,
That way.
which is, do you see the
That's
Z?
Thatcher Street?
Up, do you need me
No,
to
no.
go this?
Got it, okay, all right. Because
There's
I
a
had
Z
been
in the
looking at
plan.
Thatcher Street.
Yeah. Yeah,
Are
there's
we
a
good?
Z in the plan, which means there's more houses in between that.
Gotcha, I know.
Yep,
Oh.
lot
I
line.
thought it was next to the parking lot, but then I saw Thatcher Street. I said, oh, I guess I'm wrong.
The plan
Yeah,
shows,
see the little-
plan shows it about 500 feet from Thatcher Street,
Got it.
Yes.
right there.
Yep.
Okay, so we go back to the pictures. So that is the existing structure. This is looking down towards the rear property line. This is the rear of the existing structure. So there isn't any vegetation really that needs to be removed for the project. Sorry if it's hard to see. This is the channeled stream. So that's kind of gives you an idea.
Got it. Commission members, anybody want to look at this on Saturday, the 26th?
26.
I think
Is
it's
there a,
straightforward, Mr. Chairman.
Arthur, I couldn't hear you. Say again.
I was just saying, I think this is very clearly done and very straightforward. I personally don't see a need for a site walk.
Okay, that's why I asked the question.
I have a couple of questions.
You what?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
As I'm looking at the lot plan here, I see where the brook is beyond the lot line and back, and I see a chain link fence, and I see the 25-foot buffer, but I don't see a line for the floodplain. Maybe the consultant could tell us if the floodplain is on the lot back here.
Let me see. I usually include a FEMA map with my
You
file.
did, but it was hard to read. So I have to say that I looked at the town map, and the town map shows that the 100-year flood zone impinges on the back of the lot.
All right, so yeah, where the dot is, so we're at the 0.2%
yes, that's
annual
correct.
chance flood hazard.
Well,
Yeah,
that would be the brown orange, but the inner green part actually laps onto the lot, I believe.
That's the floodway, Tom.
Is it?
And that's probably should be shown on the plan. The floodway.
Yeah, I agree, because we really don't want to approve plans that don't show the resource areas.
Yep.
okay, I can ask the surveyor to add that.
Let me ask the homeowner if the back of the lot ever floods.
I've never had any standing water anywhere on the property. It's never
It's
even
never come up over the wall, huh?
Not even close. Not even halfway.
Um,
And my
fine,
great
that's,
aunt,
yeah,
my great aunt lived here for 53 years prior to us buying the house. So I'm very aware.
well, that's good to hear. From the photos, it looks like the rear of the lot is quite flat. So
Mhm.
it makes you wonder how they decided where to put that floodway line, because it does go on to the back of the lot, but it doesn't go as far as the garage. And if I shared my screen, I could show that. Anybody wants to see it?
Sure, go ahead, Tom.
All right, the host is disabled screen sharing.
Hold on, let me,
There you go.
All right, now I can do it.
let me
Yes.
see, stop share.
All
Okay.
right, let's see if I can
And-
find what I'm trying to share.
Making you a co-host.
All right, and I'm trying to decide which screen to share, but I'm sharing the wrong one, I think. I'm sharing
That's
the
the
maps.
agenda. Yeah, no, that's the agenda.
Yeah, right. So let me try and figure out which one I'm supposed to share. I hit share screen and it says select window or screen, but the list isn't long enough to show the thing I want to share.
Oh,
It's
weird.
not giving me an option to do that. All right, I'm sorry. I guess I'm not going to be able to do this because I can't find the screen I'm looking at. But it is the town's GIS, and it shows a yellow band going along the brook that represents the flood zone. And that yellow band laps onto this lot, but does not get as far as the garage. So if I was going to put it on the plan that was submitted, it would be include a sliver of the back end of the lot. And it's good to hear that that hasn't flooded, because we have certainly had some 100-year storms recently.
Let me ask you a quick question. From the top of the bank down to Pine Tree Brook, is any of that walled, and what is roughly the height, the elevation?
The wall down from where
The chain link
So-
fence is?
yeah, it's probably about
Probably
a foot
at
or 2
least-
feet. And then it's probably the wall itself, probably, I don't know, 12 feet. I
That's
know a
my,
car went into it and was underneath the bridge
Yeah.
down by Brook
Central
Road. So
right.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention that those floodplains don't take into account barriers such as that elevation in that wall. So it's
Mhm.
not surprising that you haven't had water coming on to your property at all.
I will ask the surveyor to add those onto the plan.
All right, Arthur, you responded to my question. Tom, do you have any other questions, thoughts? And do you think that you need a site visit? You're on.
No, I don't. I don't think I need a site visit.
Okay, Hans?
Yeah, I don't think I need to see a site. I see the site. I've driven by it hundreds of times, and yeah, very familiar with it. The area. I would just ask that on your plan you show a what's it called, a mitigation area, a restoration area, a mitigation area, and if you could provide a little more detail of what that will consist of?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually want to.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually want to plant natural shrubs or native shrubs, I should say, along the back chain link fence area to kind of provide privacy as well from the middle school behind us.
Sure. And I think it would just be helpful to have a plant list so we know.
Yeah, I don't think that they were to that. It was kind of last minute discussion that we
we're
were
talking
going to
to a
have this
landscaper
mitigation
about that.
area. So we didn't get to the point of choosing which shrubs, but they are going to be native.
It is, yeah, we're just talking to a landscaper about it because it is kind of a shaded area with a lot of bamboo growth along the brook, so
Japanese
we
nut.
want to make sure it doesn't get strangled out.
So
You mean Japanese knotweed?
Yep.
You can see it in your photo.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
guess maybe would it be okay if I propose that we include language in the order of conditions as to the type of plants so that, you know, the planting area be consist of native species or something to that effect, which you're already proposing. And so
Hans,
that we don't
one
necessarily need a full planting list.
one thing we could do, and Matt, I don't know what your construction schedule is, but we don't want to slow you down, and it looks like you get support for the plan here. We've got a public meeting on the 26th where we can vote as long as it's a public meeting on the 26th. And you said you're already talking to your landscape person. Can you get us a plan? As you can tell, sometimes we do conditional votes and like, you know, we've asked for the floodplain to be added. That's an easy one, but the plant list, would give you a chance to talk to your landscape person and get us a list that we could approve on the 26th. But again, I don't know if you've got
Of this month. Is it
Say
the
again?
26th of October? Is it the 26th of October?
Yes.
I'm running a marathon the next morning, so I wouldn't be available for the meeting, but I can probably get you a list of what we are going to have planted.
And I'm happy to work with you too to make some choices.
Yeah, we wouldn't need to have a
We don't need to see you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just have to have it submitted.
Yep, I can work with the landscaper.
Okay, and stay in touch with Philip Driscoll.
Sure thing.
Because he's in the DPW office. So if you can make sure you get it to him for the 26th, that we're in public meeting, we can vote on it.
Sounds good.
Okay, and I'm we haven't taken a vote yet, but it looks like you've got support for the plan. So run your marathon and don't worry. All right. Any other thoughts, folks? Then with the consent of the applicant, we'll continue this. Yes?
Just with respect to the floodplain issue, in the lower left-hand corner of the plan, the surveyor noted that the property is in the X zone, which is not a floodplain zone, so they're out of the floodplain. Take a look at the plan, lower left-hand corner.
Property is located in Zone X. FEMA map dated.
The lower left or the?
Well, the middle left.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Property is located in Zone X based on, yeah.
Right. So
But
he probably
that's
did
not
he
what-
probably did a flood elevation certificate to determine that. So it's outside of the floodplain.
That's not what the permit noticed.
Well,
At
that's
all.
not, yeah. I mean, it's not in Zone X is essentially what the difference is.
Right.
It's in Zone X.
I'm sorry.
Which is-
It's
which is
located
out-
in Zone X.
which
I'm
is
sorry.
outside the flood zone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't it the case that part of the lot is in the floodway and part is not?
No, there's another zone. It's the AE zone, 0.2%, which is a 500-year, used to be called the 500-year flood zone. It's pretty obvious on the format that it's right there inside, in the middle of it, actually, in the 0.2% annual chance flood hazard area. Okay, so I believe that note is wrong. If I'm looking at the format, the FEMA format,
But
that has the location of the house and a little dot, this little pin there.
Based on elevation.
yeah,
It's not based on the line on the map. It's based on elevation. So
Yes,
if Patrick Rosengrave certified that it's in Zone X, he obviously did an elevation.
yes,
Well, maybe.
exactly. That's my answer too, John. Maybe.
All right. So is it, the Fermat map that you're looking at referring to, Steve? What
It's
is
in
that? What's the acronym stand for?
I'm sorry, what's the format?
Yeah.
It's the National Flood Hazard Layer format. It's flood hazard, national flood hazard layers. Yeah.
All right. Well, this sounds almost like a procedural issue. Isn't it the easiest thing to do to just note that on the
Yes.
on the plan? I don't think it's going to make a difference on our vote.
No,
but we do
no, it
not want
shouldn't.
to approve a plan that we're not all comfortable with. Especially in these days of climate change and increasing frequency of 100-year storms, we want to be as accurate as we can.
Right. Yeah, I would say a portion of the lot is in the floodway. And that's based on elevation, Bob.
Well, I don't know. Why would this surveyor certify that it's in Zone X if it isn't?
I don't know. He's looking at a different map, maybe. Maybe he doesn't have
based on
access.
elevation, Steve.
But so is the Vermet map, isn't it?
Yes.
But so just to be clear, you're talking about GIS layer accuracy where a line width is half the distance of the garage. So what Bob is saying, that line that is shown where the border of the zones is,
I'm not talking about the line. I'm talking about the elevation. Patrick.
He's talking about ground elevation.
Certified that it's in Zone X, so he obviously did a elevation check there. So,
So we'll put them both on the map, and then it'll be accurate, and people can discuss whether or not it's elevation or map color from Vermet. But we'll have them both, and it'll be an accurate plan.
There you go. I'd be happy with that, John.
Good.
It doesn't affect the vote of the commission.
So we're good to go with the assent of the applicant. We'll continue this until the 26th, and the applicant will submit to Philip a landscape plan. And our vote will be contingent on approval on that, but rest assured that if you've got native species in there, we'll be happy with it. All right?
And the revised plan that has the
yes, correct. Yes, indeed.
Clear DEP number.
Yes. Yeah, and we can't vote until we have that. And so if anybody was looking for a conditional vote tonight, we can't do it unless we have a DEP number. Right. Okay? So Debbie, I'm sure you'll be able to get that by.
Yep, I'll start harassing people tomorrow.
All right. You know who's pretty good? I found to be very responsive, and I know she's a circuit rider, so I don't know if she has anything to do with numbers, but that Alicia Geelan has been, I think, a very good public servant, and
Yeah,
helping
I know.
people everywhere.
I'm the director of conservation for Needham, and she's our circuit rider as well. And she's very helpful.
Yes.
That's good.
I'll get
Good
in touch.
reputation to have. All right. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks,
Thank
Matt. Thanks,
you.
all.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, all.
Good night.
And next on the agenda is number 5, and that's Bill Gallagher, Oyster Project Update. Bill, you're on, sir. Welcome. And you're on mute right now. There you go.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's very interesting hearing what you had to talk about tonight. And yeah, I originally had an idea along with the scientists at MIT to just plant the oyster shell itself in the Neponset River. This here would be able to provide, I call it a food supply for the existing shells that are there. Down by the Morrissey Boulevard and then opposite that on the other shoreline, there is an oyster bed there. I was thinking about planting down around the Milton landing area. So the scientists would come up with one issue is that invasive species, and that would be the European oyster. That arrived in this country here around the 1940s and 50s. And invasive species generally squash out the existing species that's there. Invasive species is also a plant, and it could be a disease. So whatever, I'll go back, let's roll back history a long time. And if we remember Darwin down at the Galapagos, loading up the ship with plants and all other things and bringing it back to England, those would be invasive species. So the problem is that when you do something, are you going to help out the invasive species or are it going to be the native species? That was the one issue there. The second issue that came up was that the pollution on the river was very high. And that would prohibit planting of the shells. If it was possible to plant shells, the concern would be the public would get through the grapevine, find out there's oysters down there, and then it'd be taking the oysters from the river. So which would somewhat, this area here was like not really confirmed because I don't want to harvest the oyster. But if I wanted to harvest the oyster, you have to have a police officer down there to monitor the situation. So there was basically, I found a real good case study that was in the Chesapeake Bay area. Oyster growers wanted to bring in so it was a Chinese river oyster, which was a lot more economical and also more saleable to the general public. For over almost a 20-year period, they studied the effect of it, if it was allowed, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, at the end of the discussion, the Corps of Engineers stepped in and prohibited the oyster from being brought into that area. The concern would be the oysters would form large beds, which would decrease the draft in the riverbed or in the area, which would be a navigational hazard, and that would fall under the engineers to address that issue. I also found out that the Nature Conservatory is located in Boston, is in the process of trying to change this pollution, no plant area within the outer part of Boston Harbor, meaning around Hull Gut. So they're trying to allow shellfish to be planted there and harvest. That was somewhat of a big change as far as looking back at the history of Boston Harbor, the Charles River, the Neponset River, the Mystic River, just, dumping pollution in the harbor for many, many years. And that was, causing health issues as far as shellfish should be concerned. And unfortunately, recently I just found out it's a Superfund, up by Mother Brook and down to Baker's Dam. They just found a area which there was a very, very high level of PVCs and forever chemicals, and they changed it to an emergency situation. So they wanted to clean that up as quickly as they can. So looking at the situation now, it's somewhat I don't want to call it a dead issue, but there is hope as far as if they do any dredging down by the Ponset River. There are reasons that could be done because there are high levels of contaminants in the riverbed itself. So once that is cleaned up, they could probably come along and look at the regulations again and say this would be somewhat suitable for planting oyster shells. So that's about somewhat in a nutshell. I certainly learned an awful lot about the regulatory things you have to walk to and, talk to different scientists about the issue. They were very, very helpful, the Bedford, the fishery, et cetera, et cetera. So I appreciate their input, and they were very helpful and provide me with good answers. So if anyone has any questions.
Bill, no, that's really good information for us to have, and we're very grateful that you're keeping us abreast of what's going on. And we had heard also that the state grant to support the funding for the dredging project at Milton Landing has actually been postponed because originally it was scheduled to precede the Superfund site cleanup. And of course, that didn't make any sense because they'd clean up Milton Landing, and then all of a sudden, upstream from Baker's Dam would release the contaminants and then recontaminate as they went downstream. So the dredging project, as I understand it, which was state supported, has now been put on the back burner until the feds complete their cleanup of the upstream side of this, which would also postpone your project for planting oysters.
Yes, that's it. You basically outlined the same information that I received. It'd be useless to clean the lower part of the river while the upper part is still contaminated, and all that stuff would flow down and just recontaminate the area. So it's as I said, it's possible down the line. When that is a big question mark. And we have to just sit back and see how things unfold. So.
All right. Well, we appreciate you keeping us up to speed on this, and we welcome your input at any time.
Okay.
Other commissioners have questions or comments?
I happen to speak to a woman who lives and works in New York City, particularly the Jamaica Bay area, and her job is to publicize the oyster restoration they're doing in New York Harbor. And I have to say that the New York project is not hindered, unlike work in Boston Harbor, by the fear that if oysters are restored in polluted water, people will eat them and get sick. That's a risk apparently they're willing to take in New York Harbor. And they are very extensively spreading oyster shells in the Hudson and around Long Island to try to encourage the repopulation of oysters, because the oysters themselves are filter feeders and will clean the water. So I hope for our sake that the regulators in Massachusetts take a little more relaxed attitude about promoting the return of shellfish.
Yes, that's basically what I ran across too, Tom. Yeah, there are other areas around the country that it's just planting the oyster shells itself to increase the population. I was unaware that New York has like a little bit more forgiving rules, because here it's like automatically, that's a polluted river? No. There's no further discussions from that. It's a solid rule that they are enforcing. So
That seems to me unfortunate.
yeah, I think so too, because time has improved the quality and of the, let's say, Boston Harbor itself. But like I was at the Stone Living Lab, and there was a teacher there who just wanted to put a string of mussels in Boston Harbor for educational purposes. The answer is no. Not even, putting a string of mussels for educational purposes. That's how the rules are really strict. Yes, I think there should be flexibility sometime soon.
Bill, thank you very much. We're all grateful. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is new business. I have some. Steve, do you have a list, or anybody else, Arthur?
Just a couple of things, just a couple of little updates. If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
711 Randolph Ave. Pam Merrill of the DEP was there yesterday inspecting and found everything to be in pretty good shape, as I have reported, in the past few months. The ice house was putting some loom on the mitigation area outside their own property line on the conservation property about a week ago, and I have not been back there to take a look at it. But they were right next to additional Japanese knotweed on the northerly side. So I let them know that. I let Mr. Bosworth know that, and we'll see how it comes out. He says, "I've dealt with knotweed before." That was his quote. And I said, "Yeah, but have you been successful?" So we'll see. We'll see how successful they are with it. Those are my small updates.
What about 711 Randolph Avenue? Do they have those rebar stakes in marking their delineation work line?
They have taken the rebar stakes out. Okay, but they're just about done with their
What do you mean? What do you mean they took them out? That was a precondition. I was there.
Yes,
and I can give you verbatim what was said. What do you mean they took them out?
They're not there today or yesterday. They weren't there yesterday morning.
The whole purpose was to hold that line, because that line is so soft that I predicted, in fact, the entire Conservation Commission predicted that it was not constructible. And they were right up against it. If they lost a foot, they had to go for a MEPA review. That's why we needed those lines in place. So was this with Pam Merrill's approval?
Yes.
How can you take out the limit of work line? Steve, that's outrageous.
You're asking the wrong person, John. That's why I figured I'd bring it up.
I brought it up.
Yes. No, I brought up the subject of the site.
Yeah. And I brought up where are the stakes?
Right. They've been removed.
And what's the status of the roadway?
They are almost
the crossing. We're talking about a limited project here.
Yes, the crossing has been built, and it's been filled, and the outside blocks, they're a concrete block that's got voids in the centers, are almost complete. There's one corner, which is an inside corner for a turn, It's not quite complete yet. It's going to be complete very soon. But large trucks have been moving across it. Concrete trucks have been moving across it for the past couple of weeks, evidently. I was away for the past couple of weeks. And they're beginning the foundation of the more westerly building. That's coming along right now, concrete forms of the foundation of the westerly building.
You know, I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in the crossing over
Well,
our wetlands that we're supposed to be protecting.
right. That's why they were building the crossing, was to bring those big trucks across. May I suggest a visit on the 26th?
I sure think that's imperative, John.
Yeah.
And I will
Let's
bring
put
a
it down
tape
on the
measure.
schedule and Philip, I think we need to have an official notification of our public site visit to Pam Merrill from DEP. This is squarely in the hands of DEP. And that was a very specific condition that those rebars would go in for that exact reason,
Yes.
that we could maintain that line.
And
So
I think I will bring
that's on our agenda. What's that?
a tape. I will bring a tape measure.
Well, where are you going to measure from? That's
Oh,
the problem.
No, one side of the wall to the other side of the wall, to the other side of the roadway.
Bill,
They were
would you be
limited
able
to 50.
No, it's the limit of work that's the issue.
Right.
It's not
outside that
it's
measurement.
it's 24 feet. I'm sure that's going to be 24 feet. It's the limit of work. That was a fight from 2013.
Right.
It's never changed.
John, I think, if I may, we should notify all of the parties that we are going to be there and ask for their presence as well.
I agree.
I would also
You may
ask to
have-
circulate a copy of the superseding order so that we can review that
Yeah.
before going out.
Boy, talk about poking a stick in our eye. Wow. Okay. Philip, if you can produce that agenda, so we can send the agenda to the Holland brothers and the contractor. I'd like Colin to be informed. Steve, you have to help me with his last name. He seems to know what he's doing. What is it?
Paul Holland?
No, not Paul Holland.
Oh,
I know
Palm.
Colin, Colin, first name, last name, contractor.
COLM. Yes, the contractor.
Right.
And his
So
last
he's got
name, I've forgotten his last name. But it's
well,
yeah.
well, what a shock.
What time
All right.
should
So
we?
as soon as you can get that agenda printed, announce the public meeting, and we'll have to give notice to Pam Merrill of DEP, Paul Holland of the Holland Brothers, Colin and Steve, if you can get his last name for us.
Sure.
And Chase Berkeley was with us at the meeting where we had an agreed upon condition for those rebar stakes to stay there. And I know Chase is gone now, but I guess Tom McCarthy, is he acting, Arthur?
Yes.
I'd like, it would be great if he could be there as well. Okay.
What time do you want me to put down? We have 8:30, Myers Lane. What time?
I don't, yeah, that won't be very long, 9:15. I mean, if we started at, if they can say, you can say 9 o'clock if you want.
Yeah, I think 9 with the travel time, John.
Okay.
And it's John, it's Colin O'Shea. OSHEA.
And it's to discuss the rebars out.
to discuss the whole project.
Okay.
Yes.
The commission, and that is part of the superseding order, that the commission shall be informed of all, changes and activities, and we have right of access to inspect. That is a condition of the superseding order.
Right.
Okay. Additional business, what I would like to do is propose, we have, there's a change coming in the town's construction of the open space committee. And for the information of the commission members, that Wendy has submitted her formal resignation as our designee, because the way the open space committee is set up, the select board appoints a certain number, and then certain bodies have the right to designate a representative to that body. Wendy has formally resigned from that position. It's open right now, and I would propose to nominate, and this is not a vote, I'm just looking to see if there's a consensus, but I know some of you are familiar with Georgia Lee, and just by way of her background, she is one of the directors of the trustees of the reservation. She's chairman of the Boston Committee, which is a pretty active committee for the trustees of the reservation. And she's got a extensive and professional relationship with environmental concerns. And I think she would be a marvelous addition as our designee to the Open Space Committee. There's a push now. The Open Space Committee has been somewhat inactive over the last 18 months or so. And I talked to town administrator. I think there's a new chairman now, and they're sort of being infused with new energy. So they're about to be up and running and becoming more active. We heard tonight from Ron Israel from the Climate Action Planning Committee. And they're obviously, trying to gather the stakeholders together. But the Open Space Committee is going to be significant in terms of the town's ability to move forward in identifying and preserving and enhancing open space. So my view is she'd be a good addition if she were our designee to represent the Conservation Commission on the Open Space Committee. And I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts or concerns or whatever. Any thoughts, I guess?
Well, just a thought that hit me is that Wendy continues as our representative on the Community Preservation Committee, and open space is a major ingredient to that whole act legislatively.
Yes.
And that Wendy and Georgia Lee would probably work well together. So I think that's a nice partnership.
Okay, I don't hear any other thoughts. Okay, because Nick
Tell
asked me.
Tell us, Sean, what the Open Space Committee does.
What it does or what it's supposed to do?
What it, yeah.
And I said, and I'm not being critical. It's just it hasn't been particularly active in the last year and a half or so. But with new energy and a new chairman, I know that Nick and the select board are looking forward to some increased activity. You're asking what's that activity? It is to identify and to open space and to come up with plans to preserve and enhance that open space. Now, what that translates into, can we buy it? Can we? And the town's answer is probably no, we don't have the money. Because land is so expensive. However, there are different sort of more economical ways to do it. We can do it through conservation restrictions. And you can buy that, and there's a way to incentivize people to sell the conservation restriction. Some people do it out of love of open space. Some people might do it because they get paid for it, a far lesser amount than the land is actually worth. And I'll give you an example in a moment. But the other thing is to work with other town agencies and departments like the assessors. And if somebody could, donate a conservation restriction to the town, they might be incentivized or motivated to do that by some kind of a tax break on the value of their land, because the land will be worth more ecologically, but maybe worth less on the open market. That if you're not going to sell it to a developer, the price might go down, but the benefit to the public and to the environment is huge. So the idea of the Open Space Committee is to come up with ideas like that to incentivize people to restrict the development on their lands. The example I was thinking about is that a year ago, we, the Conservation Commission, I wrote the proposal and I presented it to the Community Preservation Act Committee. I asked for $100,000 to buy a conservation restriction on the land that's up on Blue Hill Avenue. Tom, you know the land, and I'm talking about Farley Sullivan, who bid on that land. And when I talked to her, she was willing to commit to keeping it open, and said, "Can you, through the Conservation Commission, through the CPC committee, sweeten the pot, add some money to get a conservation restriction?" And she was 100% behind a conservation restriction to prevent development and to actually develop a walking path to enhance public access. And unfortunately, the CPC turned us down on that for various reasons. But that's the kind of project that the Open Space Committee should be doing. In fact, the Conservation Commission did it, but that would be within the province of the Open Space Committee as to what they're doing. That's the way you purchase, acquire, enhance, preserve open space, which happens to be, in my mind anyway, the number one weapon against climate change. Open space.
John, in follow-up to Tom's question, I might add that under the planning department, Horsley Witten has been engaged by the town to inventory all of the open space, regardless of which town department has responsibility for it, i.e. the selectmen, the park department, the conservation commission, and it will include all open space owned by private parties as well, including all of the churches, school properties, etc. And that probably will be completed by the end of the year.
And Arthur, is this part of an open space and recreation plan?
It's
what?
It would feed into that.
The inventory, yes.
Yes, the inventory would be essential to the planning process.
Right. Yeah, I've been involved with inventories like that.
I'll say, Norwell just bought, what did you tell me, 47 acres of open space?
147.
What's 100 acres? 147, that's remarkable.
Yeah,
And
$3
they did it
million.
for what, $3 million?
$3 million, that's correct.
That's pretty good for 147 acres.
Yes, it is. A lot of it was wet, but some of it's up.
Yeah. Well, that's what it takes. I think it takes, the town bodies working together, and that's why this whole networking that I think Ron Israel was talking about today is important, to get all the stakeholders working together in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other new business?
I have a couple, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
I spoke with the town administrator recently on the status of the contract for the survey work for the 25 acres, actually the total of the 25 acres of land taken at the Maytown meeting down in the Ponce River area behind Cortland Circle, plus the pre-existing 8 acres that were owned by the Conservation Commission for a total of 33 acres. And he said that following the review that Chase Berkeley and I had done, the contract went back to environmental partners in Quincy, and they're in the process of reviewing it and getting it back to the town administrator. Second point is I spoke with him about the status of the deeds relative to that property, to the land swap, and any that were outstanding. And he said they are all being, they have not been processed yet. They all are all being packaged or bundled together for submission to the select board for their action, but he did not have a timetable on it. And the third thing that I wanted to ask is how many members of the commission might be going to the MAC meeting out at Devon's, because there are multiple sessions on stormwater. And in one series, Series C, they have actually 3 sessions. So if anybody else is going, there's a stormwater session in each of the 4 blocks. I can cover 3 of them. If anybody else is going and they're going to be going to any of those stormwater sessions in Series C, which is from 1 to 2:30, if they could let me know, and then I'll pick another one, and then we can compare notes and use those, not only for our work in the Conservation Commission, but also for the work that you delegated me to do with the Climate Action Planning Committee. That's it.
That's good. Thanks, Arthur. What's the date on the conference?
It is later this month, the 19th, maybe. Phil is registering us. I don't have the.
I should know it. I don't.
Right in front of me.
I think it is the 19th. Yes, it's a Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
All right. Any other new business? I think we're good to go then.
Yeah, Arthur.
Oh, there is a Roy. You've got your hand up there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring information to the commission relative to a beaver issue we have at the Pine Tree Brook near the Highland Street Extension Bridge. Further down, the DCR were down there in September and cleaned out that whole area from blockage that had been there for quite some time. But further on down the brook, heading toward Canton Ave, the beaver have gotten together and they've rebuilt the dam down there, and it's got quite extensively built. I talked to Steve about a week ago, and I think Steve, that you went down there and took a peek yourself. But
Yes.
they're, you know, and it's extensive. It has blocked the dam, and blocked the brook from proceeding towards Hope's Pond. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I've spent pretty much the whole summer in that area watching it because I heard about the beaver that were causing problems down there. So I wanted to make sure that I was correct and that the beaver were the problem, because we know what the results would be if they are the problem. And apparently they are the problem.
Well, that's important because, you know, Roy, you and I were both at the Board of Health meeting there, and at that time we didn't know what was causing the debris in the at least in the culvert.
Yeah.
But so now, does DCR now intend to come back and seek another permit to remove, execute the beavers?
Yeah, I think that I guess that would be the next step. I don't know if my understanding was that they were gonna clean that debris that was there at the bridge, and then they were going to turn it over to the town, because they didn't have any more money to continue to do that kind of work. But that's where it is right now, as far as I know.
All right, it's an interesting
they have, you
situation.
know, and I think Steve have you seen this, the dam down there?
No, I've seen the results of the dam with the
Yeah,
the slack water. upstream
had,
of the dam, but I've never
I'd set up
seen
a
the
trail.
dam.
I'd set up a trail camera and got pictures of the beaver there.
Hmm.
And the dam itself now is very well put together, and it has actually stopped all the water from proceeding down toward Canton Ave. So I mean, it's building up. It's backing up heading back to the Uncrity Dam area. Luckily, we haven't had any rain. If we have any substantial rain, and it only takes an inch and a half of rain to get that brook really going. So I don't know, I guess somebody's gonna have to remove the dam, I would assume.
And all the
That's nice.
beavers.
Right.
Right.
And it's interesting because DCR was very explicit at the Board of Health meeting that if they trap the beavers, they have to euthanize them because they cannot replace, they can't relocate them under state regulations, which Steve, you told me about, and you were right. I assumed you were right, but that was confirmed by DCR and the Board of Health and everybody else that I've talked to. So it puts the town in kind of an awkward position of saying, well, you got to kill the beavers.
And
you can't relocate.
I spoke to another fellow while I was down there the other day, and he claims that there are even other dams heading back towards the Uncrity Dam. I haven't been able to get into that area, but and I don't know if that's true or not. But,
Just
there is.
it
is true.
up gradient of the Harlan Street Dam. Yes.
That's pretty significant. That's about 80 feet plus long, isn't it, Steve?
A little bit more, I think. Yes.
And I think Tom Palmer, you've been there. You've seen that one as well, haven't you?
Yes, if you go down the berm and Uncle Road, cross over the berm, you can see it. Although I saw it in the spring before the leaves came in, but not only was there a dam there, but there was a lodge, a big mound of sticks in the water. Now, Roy, could you tell us where you have to go on Old Harlan Street to see the dam they're building now? It's not right at the culvert, right?
Okay, you know where the bridge there is, where the culvert is. If you go down about 100 yards towards Canton Ave, and on the right-hand side, if you look carefully, you'll first see their lodge, and then a little bit further on down, you'll see the dam. The dam is they built it up quite a bit now. And when I say it's stopped all the water, it has stopped all the water there. I mean, the dam is really quite large.
I don't think beaver dams generally block streams, but they do raise the water behind them. I think if Pine Tree Brook were to go dry because of the dam, we would be getting calls about it. I wonder if that's actually happened, that they have blocked it completely. That would be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you look from Canton Ave coming back up Holland Street toward the bridge from Canton Ave, you'll see that the brook is absolutely almost totally dry right there, whole area, right up until the dams. It's all dry. There's no movement. A lot of it has to do with we haven't had a lot of rain either.
Yes.
As soon as we get any rain, an inch or two will get that whole brook moving.
Well, I think the beavers are back, and they are going to cause problems. There is a group associated with the Hillside Street Neighborhood Association, namely Mary Beckman and Robert Muzzy, looking into this. And there was a meeting that NEPRA sponsored at Trailside last Saturday to talk about beavers. So there's a lot of community interest, and there's a lot of feeling that if there's any way we can avoid killing these beavers, let's figure it out.
Yeah, I'm on your side. On your side.
Yeah, no, I think we all are, but but it's a problem, and I guess it's not just Milton that's got the
Yeah,
problem.
and you know, it's I'm not sure who controls that part of the brook. Is it?
I think it is DCR land. Yeah, it's actually part of the
Okay.
Blue Hills Reservation all the way to Camp Nav. That's technically Blue Hills Reservation. So DCR saying, Milton, you take care of it. That's sort of a stretch, isn't it?
Yes.
When in September they had to bring down a steam shovel right on the bridge to remove the debris that was right at that location, because the water had backed all up to the right side of the brook. The brook was not going its natural flow through the culverts because of that.
So I saw that.
Once they moved that debris, that whole area just went. It was amazing to watch. The water just flowed right through there, and the area that was all backed up with water that was of concern to the health department was dry. Now it's starting to fill back up again.
They raised the water 2 feet behind the Harlan Street embankment, and they raised it so high that it flowed over the embankment down toward the Camp Nav end in 2 places. I saw that, I guess, in August, where you could still see the mud spread across Harlan Street. And I did see your video, Roy, that you did, your excellent video of the culvert itself, which showed that if you're standing on Old Harlan, it looks like 3 big bays in the culvert. But what your video showed is those bays narrow down, each of them, to pipes that are only about, 18 inches wide or something? So that's a very easy place for them to block. There's not much to block there.
It's confusing to me why they, built it that way, because it changed. Apparently it changed the flow of the actual flow of the brook, making it, when it came from the Uncrity Dam, to make a sharp right, changing the whole direction of the brook, going under the culverts. So of course that area is easily blocked up with debris when there's heavy rains. And if you've seen some of the earlier video of this past January, that whole area was flooded. It was amazing. And it was only 2 inches of rain. When I say that the brook gets going with only 2 inches of rain, it surely does.
Hey, Tom Palmer, can you stay in touch with those folks up at Hillside? And if there is a contact at the Trailside Museum, could you just, reach out and network and keep the Conservation Commission up to date in terms of, if there is any movement to, change the euthanasia requirement in terms of relocating beavers? But I just like to stay abreast of this, and your contacts on Hillside Street and the Trailside Museum might be good.
Yeah, I will be doing that. And I think the current focus is about devices. When a dam gets built, there's certain devices that you can put in the dam that lets the water through, but the beaver can't plug up. I hate to say they're contraptions, but they do look like a big cage on the upstream side with a corrugated pipe inside sticking up, and then that pipe goes through the dam they built. So they can't block the corrugated pipe, and hence they can't block the stream. But when I look at the pictures of those devices, I think these need a lot of maintenance, and as soon as you get a storm, they could get blown out. So it did not seem like an ideal solution to me. but that is being looked at now as one of the alternatives. Incidentally, there's something about Old Harlan Street that nobody can explain. Why is there a sewer line in Old Harlan Street? The reason it's there is important because if you could just remove Old Harlan Street, there wouldn't be any culvert to block. That would be one solution, to take away the embankment, but it does shelter some kind of infrastructure. And nobody has been able to tell us why, when they built Harlan Street long, long ago, they ran a sewer line under it. Does
Tom,
Bob know that?
there's also a water line under Harlan Street
Is there?
as well. Yes.
What is its service?
I have no idea.
Boy
Yeah.
But I know
Scouts,
the sewer
Scout?
line,
Camp Sayre?
it might have gone up to Camp Sarah. Yes. Yes, quite possible. But
Uh-huh.
the sewer line doesn't go under the culverts. The sewer line is downstream of the culverts. If you look really carefully, you can find the sewer manholes. There's one about 100 feet before and another one 100 feet after the bridge itself. Okay, so it's on the outside of the bridge, so it doesn't go under the street there, or the old street at that point. Very interesting.
Interesting. Huh.
I just
know
found it
that.
with the leaf off about 2 weeks ago.
All right, thanks. Hey, Bob Hannigan, I see your hand up. Did you want to ask a question or make a comment?
Actually, I was wondering if we're going to be able to discuss the Revere Street informal discussion.
Yes, I apologize to you. It wasn't on the agendas and it slipped my
Right.
mind, but I apologize for keeping you waiting. But because I did tell Bob that we couldn't vote on it because it wasn't on the
Right.
agenda, but
Right.
we could get some information on this Revere Street project. So thank you for reminding me, Bob. I apologize for
That's all right. No problem.
delaying this.
So I represent the Fahey family. They propose an addition on their property at the very end of Revere Street. And I advised them that they were jurisdictional. The property was jurisdictional. And Damien.
Can you just, I know where Revere Street is, but some of the other commission members might not know.
Okay, it's off of Audubon, and it heads in the direction of the Pine Tree Brook taking. So they're adjacent to the Pine Tree Brook taking. It's between Harold and those other streets there. So anyway, I advised him that this is jurisdictional and he would have to file a request for determination of applicability for the project, at least. And the addition is on the opposite side of Pine Tree Brook. So the existing house.
It's on the street side.
I'm sorry?
It's on the street side. That is, the house is between the street and the brook.
The existing house is between the proposed addition and Pine Tree Brook.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's like between 75 and 100 feet from Pine Tree Brook. So he actually would prefer to hear this from all the conservation members as opposed to myself. So if you could kind of, I think he's on. Damien, you there?
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
So
Hey,
What's the street address? What's the address?
83.
It's the last house on the right as you head towards Pine Tree Brook.
That would be 89
83.
Revere Street.
yes.
Correct.
I gotcha. I'm looking at it on the town GIS. Yeah. It's a small lot.
It's a double lot actually, but it is small. Correct. It's 7,000 square feet. And the proposed addition is, as I said, further from Pine Tree Brook than the existing house. So
But you said it was 75 to 100 feet from the brook?
Approximately, I just scaled it. I haven't located the exact bank of the brook, but
All right. Well, but for Damien's purpose, though, that our jurisdiction is 200 feet from a perennial stream, and Pine Tree Brook is a perennial stream.
correct.
Under the Rivers Protection Act, so that anything within 200 feet of the bank, you'd have to come to us either with a notice of intent or a request for determination of applicability. The less formal one would be an RDA, but under the Milton Town bylaw, you still have to give notice to your neighbors, even for an RDA. Under the State Act, you'd have to give it the notice to the neighbors under for a notice of intent. But either way, you'd have to seek a permit for any kind of alteration. It's not a big deal. We try to be user friendly, but we also try to fulfill our mandate to protect the resource areas. And Pine Tree Brook's a big one. It's pretty important, as I'm sure it is to you. So we invite and look forward to hearing from you about your proposed addition.
Does that answer your questions, Damien?
I don't really understand. I have spoken to the building department, and do I have to come in person, or do I have to file something?
You do have to file a notice of intent, which is a state form. It's the Department of Environmental Protection has a form, but the one that can help you is he's on. I don't know if you can see Philip Driscoll, but Philip is at the DPW office.
Okay.
And he can, show you the form. And I don't know how good you are with a computer. I'm terrible, by the way. But
I'm not great.
Oh, well, Philip could help you. But all of this stuff is available online from DEP. But if you go up to the DPW yard, up off Randolph Avenue, what is it, 625? I always get the number wrong, Philip.
629.
I know where it is.
Okay. Well, Philip's right in there, and he can show you the forms that you have to fill out. But you will need to have some kind of a an official plot plan, and I know that Bob Hannigan can help you with that one, just to show the distance of what you propose from the resource area. Resource area is just a fancy term for the brook.
Yeah.
It might be more than that if there were wetlands there, that would have to be designated, but I think the brook is pretty clear. It's probably a top of bank, so it's easy to figure out where the 200-foot mark is. But it sounds like your house is within the 200 feet, and that's what under both state law and the town bylaw, you'd have to come for a permit from us.
Okay, even though my existing house is between what I propose for the new addition and the brook.
Yes.
My existing house is close to the brook.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
And-
distance, it's not
measuring
what's
it.
in between.
Okay.
John, I'm measuring it, and the outside of his house on the side away from the brook is 73.4 feet away from the brook itself. So the outside of the house on the north side. So it's well within the 100-foot line, as well as the 200, of course.
200-foot line, right.
Yeah. But it's,
Okay.
so it's close to the brook. Yes. I've just measured it.
All right.
And you may want to touch base on enforcement orders, just so the homeowner can understand what the story is with that.
Oh, yeah. And, every once in a while, somebody will do something without a permit. And then under both state law and the town bylaws, we would issue an enforcement order to stop the project. And if somebody, if they didn't correct what violation that had occurred, which would be like any alteration. If you put a post in the ground, it's an alteration. I'll give you an example, where, what is it? What's the road where we put up the Eagle Scout put up the sign? It's right near your house. It's where the bridge over the Pine Tree Brook goes up to the high school. No, it's not Mara. It's Crest. What is it?
I know the bridge you're talking about.
Parkway Crescent.
Yes.
Yeah, Parkway Crescent, right. It's at the end of Parkway Crescent. There's a sign there. It's like a bulletin board. It's got 2 posts in it. And even the Boy Scout, wonderful project. And, public service and all that. He still had to get a permit. But we try to help people comply with a permit.
Yeah,
But if you don't comply with it, then
I have no
we
problem getting the
fine you.
permit. Obviously, I went to the building department already. So it's not that I'm trying to do something without a permit. I was just wondering what was the process, and I appreciate you taking the time this evening to let me know.
Oh, sure. Sure. And we try to, our claim to fame, not everybody agrees with this, but sometimes, Bob, you don't agree with it, but we try to be user-friendly and help people comply with the regulations as opposed to throwing up roadblocks to you. So we'll work with you.
All right, I appreciate that.
Very good.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
All right, thanks, Bob. Thanks.
Okay, take care.
Anything else that I forgot? And I apologize, Bob.
No problem. No problem at all. Yep.
All right, I don't think we have any other additional business. And unless I hear to the contrary, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to make that motion?
I'll make that
You
motion.
made it. I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Yay.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
thanks all. Good night. Thanks.
Good night.